stuff, the attractions. We included integrated parking into the building groups themselves, not parking on one block where you would walk to the next block, but parking that was integral to the buildings so you could go directly to your destination. Furthermore, we expanded the public space and the green space located immediately to the south of the surf park. And that was in response to a number of folks who wanted green in the plan. And so we were able to do that by relocating the city's desired entertainment venue down to the south on 18th Street. So the entertainment venue would then be situated immediately adjacent to the green space so that potentially you could have both indoor and outdoor type venues. Throughout the public engagement process, we went to these organizations that you see in front of you and asked for support. And that includes the folks that you typically see supporting economic development projects like the Chamber and like Vision. But it also includes the surf community. It includes the folks like the 17th Street Gateway and the Virginia Beach Hotel Association, the Vibe District, the Resort Advisory Commission. We were very proud to be able to get positive reception from these groups moving forward in the project. We also studied this project. We have online, I think you'll find 4 feasibility studies, I believe. We actually conducted 6 altogether. And these feasibility studies analyze economic impact, they analyze retail, they analyze the surf park, they analyze parking, office. They really were intended to address the project comprehensively so that we all at least can read the study and see the metrics that went into creating the study and determine the viability of the project. The current model that we have shown is what we call an integrated model, and that does exactly what I described. It integrates the parking lots into the buildings. It is a vertically oriented model so that you can have more density, achieve more revenue because of the density, and have more convenient parking to be located in those building blocks. So as you can see, the retail, food and beverage, and cinema is upwards of 264,000 square feet. Office up to 150,000 square feet. 426 residential units. 1,935 structured parking spaces, and then 70 street parking spaces around for over 2,000. And again, that allowed us to have that larger surf park that would be a potential event-level destination for professional surf leagues. These are some of the renderings that you've seen in the newspaper and elsewhere. The contemporary rendering of the entertainment venue, which is styled as the Dome, does have a very unique roof element that is designed to evoke the same silhouette of the old Dome. It's curved linear, it's a little funky, it's designed to create sort of a visual architectural reference to the previous building that existed there. This is a view depicting the eastward view of the project. You can see the surf park plays a really prominent role in the overall project. The experiential retail and other retail is around it, wraps around it, and then vertically you'll see the multifamily and you'll see the office. Here's a different view looking west. The venue again. So, now the stuff that I think we really want to dig into today, and that is, why do we want to do this? At the very beginning of this process, we told the city of Virginia Beach that we want to create a project that is transformative. We want to take those existing, outdated, and outmoded development patterns that we see at the oceanfront, and we want to do something impactful that will inspire change not only in the oceanfront, but throughout the city of Virginia Beach. And so to do that, we had to achieve a level of density that produced significant revenue for the city and for us, the developer. The feasibility studies that we have commissioned show what our direct tax revenue benefit is for the project. And as you can see, it is anticipated to generate over $2.4 million in admissions taxes. These are the taxes that are paid for amusements. Would generate $2.3 million of food and beverage sale revenue. $683,000 for sales tax, $2.2 million in real estate, and over $500,000 in B-Bowl tax. The first year of stabilized operation contemplates $8.1 million plus of these direct revenues. It's also important to note that these are the direct tax revenues. They don't include the parking fees and the additional lease rents that would be inured to the city of Virginia Beach as a result of the program. So these are in addition to the 8.1. I usually spend a lot of time talking about indirect positive impacts of this project because I think that that's one thing that we as a city have not necessarily done a terrific job talking about in the past with public-private investments. You will always hear that the city is investing in these projects not only to produce direct revenue, but to also inspire the generation of revenue around the project. And when I first looked at this project, I said, okay, we really need to focus on what those direct revenues, or excuse me, those indirect revenues are. So we looked at a handful of projects. We looked at 31st Street, we looked at Town Center, and we drew a radius around them. And we looked at 10 years of revenues, real estate revenues, that were being generated in that radius. Because I wanted to see how those revenues escalated relative to other real estate tax revenues in the city of Virginia Beach. I wanted to see, well, do they really inspire the additional tax revenue that we've always talked about as a city? And what I found was, if you looked at other projects like 31st Street, the real estate values in the immediate vicinity would escalate at a much greater rate than other real estate elsewhere in the city. One of the reasons for that is that 31st Street spawned the development of other projects on 31st Street and Laskin Road. Of course, the same developer developed the project. But it did increase those real estate tax revenues in the immediate vicinity. And in fact, you would see an escalation of over 8% in those cases. And in the town center case, it was less than that. It was around 4 to 5%, but still significant relative to the average over the city. So if you look backwards 8 years or 9 years, I think you'll find that the average rate of escalation for real estate tax in the city of Virginia Beach is actually less than 1%. And when I heard that, I said, that can't be true. My real estate assessment went up dramatically a couple of years ago. And then what I didn't realize is that, yeah, it actually went down dramatically 2 years before that. So if you look at the ebb and flow of real estate tax, you'd actually find that the rate of escalation is pretty modest. So I think that we can demonstrate that these types of projects do in fact generate revenues outside of the four walls of the building. I think we can do a pretty good job of showing that it does create additional value outside. And of course, you know that the project that we are promoting is going to promote new visitation. It's going to promote new hotel rooms, estimated at 80,000. And that's a pretty significant impact for the city of Virginia Beach and for the oceanfront. Overall economic impacts. Let's see. What our spreadsheets are a little jumbled on this particular laptop, but what this demonstrates is that on a stabilized basis, the value of the project is in excess of $500 million on a total economic impact. And that's pretty significant. I think if you look at the arena study, if you look at other economic development studies, you'll find a much more modest economic output. Now, let's look at where these taxes go. Of the $8.1 million of tax revenue that we described earlier, they go into a handful of buckets. And all this, by the way, is found in the presentation from Tuesday of last week at informal session. So if you either go on VBGov and look for DOME, or if you go on YouTube and look for Ron Williams' presentation on Tuesday, you'll see these numbers. They're about the same. They might be $500,000 off here or there, but it's roughly equivalent. The TIP fund is getting approximately $2.8 million of that $8.1 million. And we'll talk about the TIP fund in a minute. The general fund is getting $2.8 million on the first stabilized year from that $8.1 million. And the city will be quick to say that that is a nominal $68 million over 20 years. The schools get $1.9 million for that first stabilized year. And other funds would generate roughly $500,000. So where we come in as the developer is the TIP fund. The TIP fund's a very important part of this project. It's important because it is the mechanism by which the public investment is made. We're really proud of the fact that the $8.1 million of tax revenue generates general fund money, and a significant amount of general fund money that will hopefully address many of the infrastructure and capital needs that we have in the city. We're really proud of the fact that we're going to be providing $1.9 million to the schools. We think that that is a direct, tangible, and immediate benefit to this project, to the city as a result of the project. We think that this is a very good thing, and we'll walk through how we can do that. The public investment in this project is really in two components. One component is the city's acquisition of basic city assets. In other words, the city's going to buy city stuff. Number one, the city will acquire the entertainment venue. This is the venue that they asked for in the RFQ in 2017. They have estimated a purchase price of $30 million for the entertainment venue. Streetscapes, obviously city assets, $7.5 million. Structured parking, $58.05 million. And recall that these numbers were in the CIP approved over the summer. Parking was a little different. It was 55, I believe, but very close to the CIP approved in the summer. In addition, these assets that the city is purchasing are being subsidized by the TIP fund, the Tourism Investment Fund. That is the fund designed to acquire basic tourism stuff. Basic stuff that will inspire additional tourism, our number 2 industry, here in the city of Virginia Beach. There's been some chatter on social media about what is the TIP fund, why do we have it, and where are these revenues coming from. We'll detail where the revenues from the TIP fund come from. We'll detail, hey, are they the revenues that we, the citizens, pay, or are they the revenues that tourists pay? And I think we'll find that the tourists pay a bulk of the TIP revenues. In addition to the acquisition of those basic city assets, we also have what is essentially a TDFP and performance grant contributed by the city to the developer on an annual basis. And I say by the city, but what I really mean is that the revenues from the project are what subsidize the project on an ongoing basis. These are not revenues that are sitting in the coffers of the city of Virginia Beach today that are going to be taken away from an important public service and redeployed into a surf park or an entertainment venue. That's not what this is. These are the but-for revenues, the tax revenues that this project will generate to be reinvested back into the project. So therefore, it should not represent a city expense in the way that we think of taking $1 out of the city's bank account and giving it to the developer. Rather, this is the developer generating the revenues that get reinvested back. Now, there are two mechanisms that we use to get the reinvestment from the project. One mechanism is TDFP, the Tourism Development Finance Program, and that is a creature of sales tax. We are seeking $1 million to be reinvested annually into the project from the city for TDFP. What you don't see on here is that TDFP is not just a city thing, it's a state thing and a developer thing. So what that means is that in addition to the city's $1 million of sales tax, the developer will be contributing its $1 million, and the state will contribute roughly $1 million of sales tax as well. For a period of time, thank you, for 20 years. In addition, we have a performance grant. And the performance grant is going to be a portion of the revenues that are generated by the project over that same 20-year period getting reinvested back into the project. It's comprised of the revenues that would have gone into the TIP fund. Not the revenues directed elsewhere, but the revenues that were destined to go into the TIP fund. Again, the TIP fund doing what the TIP fund was supposed to do, invest in major oceanfront and tourism-related projects. So, what does the taxpayer get? Well, when the taxpayer is investing its TIP fund revenues to buy those assets, you get city assets. You get the venue, the streetscapes, and the parking. What do you get when the developer takes revenues from the project, reinvests it into the project? It gets a higher quality product and experience. It gets the experiential retail, the attractions, and the project upgrades to make this the transformative project to inspire the redevelopment of the oceanfront and beyond. So this is a demonstration of where the CIP identified those major project components: the beach district parking, the dome site entertainment venue, and the dome site streetscapes, all from last year's CIP. This is the Tourism Investment Fund discussion, which I really want to have because I think it's come up repeatedly in social media, and I think it's something that we ought to think about. In 1992, City Council established this. Mr. Dean, were you on council in 1992? So you'll probably know more about what went into making this sausage than I will. But it's been around for a long time, and it's been around in a variety of different forms and fashions. It's been used exclusively for tourism projects like the aquarium, which is depicted here with my son to the left. It's been used for the convention center, the sports center, and lots of other projects that have produced additional tourism for the city of Virginia Beach. Current fund balance is around $30 million for the TIP fund. And I think after 2027, it's supposed to be a lot more, around $70 million if I remember correctly. The sources of revenue include cigarette tax, roughly 2% of the TIP fund. Amusement and participatory tax, roughly 16% of the TIP fund. Hotel taxes, 45% of the TIP fund. A portion of the meals tax, that's 20% of the meals tax that you pay when you go out to eat. 20% of that goes to the TIP fund. Roughly 33% of the TIP fund is comprised of that tax. And other stuff like beach rentals is also factored in as well. So a lot of times folks will say, you know, TIP fund revenue, it may be destined for tourism investment, but it really is my tax dollars when I go to my favorite restaurant. I'm paying a meals tax, and that's getting dumped into the TIP fund. In a way, however, the 20% of the meals tax that's being directed into the TIP fund is really designed to approximate the percentage of the meals tax or meals revenue that's generated from the oceanfront. Meaning, it's not all of your meals tax that's going into the TIP fund. It's that portion of it that's supposed to be roughly equivalent to what the oceanfront restaurants generate for tourism. So therefore, while it is fair to say that the average citizen of the city of Virginia Beach does contribute to the TIP fund, that's true. A substantial portion of this is really paid through tourism and tourism-related revenues. Now, priorities. This is something I really wanted to touch on. I touched on a little bit earlier. We're not running from the discussion about priorities. I think it's really important to talk about. We're all, again, from Virginia Beach. We all have friends and neighbors impacted by it. Right now, I've been displaced